Welcome to Phrase Orchestrator. Let's say you would like to adopt an adaptation workflow in which you adapt translations from, say, Spanish Spain to Spanish Latin America or French France to French Canada, as an example. In the past, you would have had to engage in manual processing, let's say kicking off the pre-translation at the right time, moving the workflow stage to the next step to assign it ultimately to a content editor, or you would have had to write script in order to automate this entire process, trying to find, of course, an environment to host that script, and then later maintaining and troubleshooting those scripts, which can be difficult if you don't have the right resources or they're not available to you always. With Phrase Orchestrator, intelligent content routing like this is at your fingertips. Let's see how that works. In this project here, I have language adaptation. You'll see I have a subdomain set for adaptation. So this is something we'll pay attention to in our orchestration workflow. There's a number of documents we're going to be adapting from French France to French Canada, and then also Spanish Spain to Spanish Mexico. You'll see I've already translated the French, so we're going to actually focus this presentation on French, but it works for all languages, of course. And here we have the TM strategy set up, which is ultimately to leverage the Spanish Spain or French France translations for Canada and Mexico, respectively, while we penalize those with 1%, so we make sure we don't get any context matches assigned. So in this process, I've already opened the French France documents. We'll see that the translations are already in. So I've essentially simulated that the translation is complete at this point, right? And I can trigger that workflow by clicking complete ultimately. And then these French France translations will be adapted or adopted into the French Canadian jobs, which these are the equivalent jobs in French Canada, and they're currently still empty, right? We'll see that if I hit refresh here, the workflow stage is going to be marked complete for the French France translations, but they're not yet done for the Canadian French documents, right? And this is where the workflow orchestration comes in. So workflow orchestration now is currently executing. It's actually saw that there are job completions. It will again go and fetch the project to see, is this an adaptation project? It will also check the language to make sure it is an actual adaptation language, which wouldn't execute on every language, right? And in this case, this is a French-France track to French-Canadian, and this is our Spanish track into Spanish-Mexico. We'll get at this stage the equivalent jobs, so we'll see what were the jobs that were completed that actually need to be pre-translated for French Canadian. That's what's happening here. It's then going to pre-translate those jobs and then complete the status, essentially changing the status to completed so that it can move to the next step in the workflow, which then fully automatically moves everything forward to allow for the content editing. All right. So at this point, we can actually check our executions to see how far along they are. And we'll see once they actually are completed, right? So we see this here in our workflow automation executions. Right? And so if I move over to our language adaptation project and refresh my screen, we'll also see if those have moved on to the next stage at this point. And they have. So if I refresh my job here now, we can also see that these translations have been filled in. And we'll see that they're now consistent of the French-France translations. They're all been penalized by 1%. So you'll see they're all 100% matches currently until they're edited for French Canada. And that's how we can move things from translation automatically to review, moving the adaptation process automatically forward. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to learn more about Phrase Orchestrator and how you can add intelligent content routing like this to your production today, we'll be happy to talk to you.